I'm going to start off with a quote from ESPN. Shay Persuasive, who played college basketball at Duke, wrote in the New York Times, "The NCAA states clearly that athletes are to be like any other student, but no other person in the university community is so restricted. Money is not the problem in college sports. The problem is that athletes are restricted in making it." So NCAA stands for National Collegiate Athlete Association. The NCAA has a number of rules that governing outside employment and internships for athletes that the general student body does not face. They're not allowed to work during their football season or their basketball season or whatever sport that they play. They're allowed to work during summer, but there are key factors that kind of make it impossible for them to work. Like, they have to get permission from the NCAA, they have to get permission from their coaches, and then they have to do paperwork daily when they are at the job, saying that they were like on good behavior and that they completed all the work that was assigned. And then they're only allowed to make up to $2,500 for the season or whatever when they worked. So that's adding up to like a 20-hour work week, and then that's like at an $8.25 pay rate. And in California, our pay rate's like at over $10 right now. So even if they have to still keep in the $2,500 limit, and they are allowed to do the fee for lessons and sports camps, which would be like easy money for them. But the NCAA law states in 12421 section F states, "Cannot his or her name, pictures, or appearance to promote clients," which is to promote their clients, which is kind of impossible because their ad's going to be like their phone number and then just saying, "Hey, let me like help you train," in their pay, and then the amount that they want to pay. So it's kind of like either I'm going to think it's like a scam, or that's like kind of creepy because I don't know who you are and like what you're doing. And then, so also the NBA and the NCAA are protecting their self-interest and maximizing their profits. For example, the NBA limits the earning potential of the best young players in the world by prohibiting them to go pro out of high school. So like LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Dwight Howard, they went straight into league, but now NBA requires them to do one season with they can't go in until the age of 19, so then that pushes them into the NCAA of at least one season, because you can't be 19. And right after high school, everyone's usually like 18. So then that pushes them to there. A quote from Michael Bennett, defensive tackle for Seattle Seahawks, says, "I think the NCAA is one of the biggest scams in America because kids put so much on the line and they study hard. They play football as hard as they can, but if they don't crack the NFL, then the NCAA says, 'We gave you a free degree.' That's like me owning a restaurant and saying, 'I'll give you a free burger.' I'm just giving you something I already have." Athletes don't get enough credit, and a lot of schools don't really do anything for the guys after they graduate. I think there are a few schools that actually care about their players. When I was in college, I'd be going to class. Some students comes to me and says, "I pay your tuition." I'm like, "You don't pay my damn tuition. My mom paid my tuition when she worked 2 jobs. And I woke up every morning at 6 a.m. and worked hard. To think about it, it makes me mad and irate that people are so simple-minded when it comes to something like that." And then the argument that will arise with is not every athlete can get paid. We can't pay every athlete. But quoted from Bleacher Report, football and basketball bring in the dough. So their revenue helps support the smaller programs like soccer and baseball and whatever. So the basketball and football should be getting some of the pay. And then which leads me to their scholarships. The scholarships don't cover everything. Yeah, they cover the room and board, their meal plans, extra tutoring, and their book fees. But there's no money for their everyday needs like laundry, social activities, toiletries, and extra food. And extra food is kind of like a big deal to me because I'm pretty sure we're kind of like all hungry right now. And they only get 3 meals a day, and that's not enough because they have training all day, they have to do all this stuff, and that extra money is coming out of their pocket, which leads to taking out extra student loans that they need for their classes already, and or asking money from their parents. And they can't get another scholarship because a lot of them are on already full ride scholarships. And then an argument would be they're all getting paid another way: tutoring, life learning skills, help, personal training, and the publicity that they are gaining from their university. But as quoted from cornerback Richard Sherman from Seattle Seahawks, he says, "No, I don't think college athletes are given enough time to really take advantage of the free education that they're given, and it's frustrating because a lot of people get upset with students athletes and say they're not focused on school and they're not taking advantage of the opportunities they're given. I would love for a regular student to have a student athlete scheduled during the season for just 1 quarter or 1 semester, and show me how you balance that. Show me how you would schedule your class when you can't schedule your classes from 2 to 6 o'clock or any given day. Show me how you're going to get your work done when after you get out of at 7:30, or say you've got a test the next day. You're dead tired from practice and you still have to study just as hard as everyone else every day and get all the same work done. Most of these kids are done with school, done with class by 3 o'clock. You've got the rest of the day to do as you please. You may spend a few hours studying, then you may spend a few hours at the library checking out books and doing casual reading, and then you may go hang out with your friends and have a coffee. When you're a student athlete, you don't have that kind of time. You wake up in the morning and you have weights at this time. Then after weights, you go to class, and after class, you go maybe try to grab a quick bite to eat. Then after you get your quick bite to eat, you go straight to meetings, and after meetings, you got practice and practice. You got to try to get all that work done you had throughout the day. You've got from your lectures and from your focus groups. So in conclusion, college athletes work hard and deserve the help. They should not struggle with the daily question of, at what point do you question your compensation for your work?
All right, so Karen, what did you think?
I think it was a really good speech. I like how she started with a quote, and she has really good transitions. But I could notice you were a little bit nervous, and you were reading your cards, and you were getting stuck with some words. But overall, it was you give really good examples of how athletes struggle sometimes with money, and I think you could have used more statistics. You didn't really mention any, and I like your conclusion. It was really good, and yeah, that's it.
All right. I like the quote that you have at the start. I also think that the quote that you're using at the end from Richard Sherman should probably come somewhere at the beginning of the presentation to kind of set up what the issue is. There's good information on the work restrictions that the student athletes are operating under, and I think that that kind of sets up a problem when it comes to their time, and the information from Sherman would probably fit into that particular category, suggesting that the inability of students to earn money outside of school, the limitations on their time make the situation for them as athletes and students simultaneously very complicated, and that there is a need to give them some additional compensation. I do think you want to be careful about suggesting that we should be paying the athletes. This is one of those places where the language sometimes helps. Instead of saying athletes should be paid, maybe there's a suggestion that they should get some kind of additional living stipend so that they can have some of those things like you were talking about, money for toiletries or going out for an extra burger sometime or going to a movie or whatever the heck it happens to be, doing the laundry, that kind of stuff, instead of them having to take out a loan. Now, I do think that you kind of get drawn into some other issues about what the NCAA is doing and its restrictions that don't necessarily deal with that. For example, the age of 19, the NBA set up that guideline for themselves, and so that's kind of a tangential issue that there's a restriction. The idea that somebody who is qualified to play in the NBA not being allowed to play, I think there's maybe an argument there that says that there's something wrong with that, but I'm not sure that the NCAA is the place to kind of squawk about that. And for example, if they could make it into the NBA immediately, and we're talking about them being at school, a lot of these folks, I'm going, well, what's the problem with them taking out a loan if they are in fact going to get these careers that are going to be so lucrative? If you took out whatever it is, let's say $2,500 for 4 years, you took out a $10,000 loan to supplement your scholarships, then you'd have that extra cash and money, that sort of thing. And I think you need to argue that not everybody's going to be in that situation. Only a few people are actually going to be able to pay that back. And because they already have this extra load going on, that really seems unfair to do that thing. I think there's an argument to be made here and needs to be developed a little bit. I think the speech is not as well organized as it needs to be. It feels like there's a lot of random information that's being dropped in there, and occasionally you have a point of view that you're expressing about those policies or rules, but it needs to build a little bit more, and it needs a lot more structure. I like the quotes. The Michael Bennett quote is an interesting one, but it goes on a long time, and I'm not exactly sure to what point it is talking about. The notion that scholarships are insufficient, or he never had a scholarship, so what's going on? Why is he being judged this way? Or that that they're being exploited in some way. I think it needs to be a little bit clearer what point it is you're trying to make with that piece of information, and then make that point. Tell us what it is that you want us to infer from that data. So the presentation, I think, is okay. You could probably do a little bit more talking to us. I didn't feel like I was totally distanced from what was going on. I think your voice is pretty effective when you're speaking to us. The examples, I think, add to some personality of the presentation, but you need a lot more structure. I like the end quote that you have. I just think that you need to summarize the argument at the exit as well. All right, thank you.